Brightest blessings, y'all. Sitting out here in my backyard. I know you haven't seen it before, and I'm sitting on my hot tub, so on my hot tub, not in my hot tub. I took some notes. I was watching a show that I've actually liked to watch quite a bit in the past called What Would You Do? And I was missing a lot of episodes because it's under prime time. What would you do? So I wasn't able to record it. And luckily, they had like the top 5 episodes that people voted on. And I noticed a very disturbing pattern. Okay? So I'm going to start off with episode number 5 that they were recording and talking about. The first one was about cell phone usage in restaurants. Okay? Now, basically, they had a man sitting in the middle of a crowded restaurant, and basically he was using his cell phone, talking to his employees, threatening them, and almost immediately people came up and told him to leave, knock it off, shut the fuck up, whatever. I'm going to be looking at some notes because there's like 5 different episodes I'm going to be talking about, and what pattern I see between them and why I find it disturbing. Okay, basically, almost immediately someone goes right for the manager. You can see people go up to him and say, "Hey, knock it off, get out of here. You want to talk, go outside." They got up and they actually confronted him. And if they were too scared to do so, then they got the manager. Basically, that was dealt with right away. Now, they did a female person doing the exact same thing. Now, people really didn't complain to her, but they did eavesdrop on her. And I think this probably had to do with her being female and cute, but also I think it more had to do with that her story was more interesting. She wasn't threatening her employees. Basically, she was on a deadline to fax an important document to her boss, and it was lost, so she called her boss, her boss called her, and she lied to him. Basically, it was more of a vulnerability. She was begging for help to find this paperwork that she was supposed to fax to him, and saying, "This is my butt on the line. It's always my butt on the line. I'm going to get fired. Please find this. Please fax it to him ASAP." When the boss called her himself, supposedly these are actresses and actors, she lied and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was faxed to you already. I'll go ahead and refax it to you again." All that stuff. And mainly everybody was listening in on the situation, and it was more like a soap opera. So I think part of people not complaining to her and about her was that she was a pretty girl. But mainly, I think it was the situation. The other guy was actually the boss yelling at his employees. Okay. Now, either which way, I noticed whatever was going to happen, if they were going to complain or just listen in on the soap opera, it happened right away. Okay, the next episode they did was a racist boutique. Basically, it was an upscale clothing boutique in the heart of New York City. And a black woman came in. Same woman each time. It was a woman each time, not a man, and then a woman. They dressed her up and they dressed her down. And I have to say, even when they dressed her down, she looked rather nice. And literally, it was her that was the actress, and of course the boutique owners. The boutique clerk, and then the security guard was also the actor. One thing I noticed before they even started it is they said that they had difficulty finding any stores that would actually participate in such a thing. And I found that quite revealing as it was. Basically, they searched her for no reason, saying, "Oh, you should be used to this by now. You know what I mean. You people, I don't go shopping in your neighborhood." She's like, "You don't even know where I live. What neighborhood are you talking about?" It was just blatant and disgusting. And it was actually loud, and people heard this stuff. You could see them looking over. Some people were actually really, really disgusted, and they were obviously looking over, but pretending like they weren't. They were acting like they didn't even hear anything. Yeah. I need to look down here. And basically, the actors were told at some point in time, I guess they had an earpiece to engage the customers as well. The black lady who was supposed to be the customer actually looked over to one of the people and said, "I'm just a shopper here. You're a shopper too. Were you searched as well?" And, basically they gave just the bare minimum response of no, and then just went on shopping and primping and all that stuff. I just found that incredible. There were a few people that came to her aid, mainly other black people. There were a few other people that were not black that came to her aid, but according to this, there's about 100 different people witnessed the situation, and out of that, less than 20 came to her defense. Wow. Especially with some of the crap they were saying to her. Okay, one lady actually did defend her, and she actually even started crying. But the only reason why she even defended her is because the clerk actually pulled her into the conversation. So, yeah. Now, the next one was baby in a car. Now, they did not actually lock a real baby in a car. It was one of those realistic baby dolls. And they noticed that people weren't responding to it right away. Well, and I can understand that because you don't really go walking and looking what's in the back seat of cars. So, you're not going to notice if a baby's there, especially, a lot of people who have children have car seats in their car. So, even if a car seat catches your eye, you're not going to say, "Oh my God, there's a baby in there," or look to see if there's a baby in there. So what they did was, after the second day, they actually hit a speaker in the front seat, and they had a baby crying. So basically, this did get the attention of the people. And I found this amazing because you could see it got the attention because people were looking back. They did a double check, but they didn't stop. Most people didn't even stop. They looked, they saw. Some people even looked back and even went back to see that there was a baby in the car seat crying. And they didn't do anything. They just went walking right on by. One lady was actually asked, "Gee, why didn't you do something?" And she goes, "Well, I was about to call my mom to find out what I should do." I don't know why she would call her mom. She's like in her 20s, for God's sakes. You should know what to do. One lady said, "Well, gee, it's not my car. It's not my responsibility. It had nothing to do with me." Wow. Really? Do bear with me. I'm checking my notes again. Now, some people actually did do something. They actually checked the baby. The people that did do something, one was actually checking the baby to make sure she was okay. Some people called the police right away. And this one guy was actually looking around in the stores for the baby's mother or father. Now you heard some expert talking about, look, you may not want to break the window. It's not your car. You don't want to destroy it, but maybe that's what you should do, especially because you don't know if the baby's going to be in physical danger or how long the baby's been there. And it's either a baby's life or a piece of metal and broken glass. And she said you just may have to break a window that's furthest away from the baby. Now, to see how far they would go, when the mother came back, she told one guy that she does it all the time because it's so hard to get the baby to sleep. But also, she was going on about, it's not a problem. And then she walks away again. I probably would have busted the window after that, but only after she walked away again in front of me, after I had confronted her. Okay, next one. And before we go on to the next one, when people were confronted and say, why did you get involved? Why did you do something? And they always said, well, I have kids, or I thought of my kids, or all this stuff. And I don't understand, were those the only people that actually responded? Because I hope not. I don't have any kids. And I can tell you right now, if I saw a baby locked in a hot car with the windows rolled up, it would be the same as if I saw a dog or a cat locked in a hot car with the windows rolled up, especially here in Arizona. I would have called the police. I would have gotten involved, and I don't have any children. Do you have to have your own children to even want to get involved? Next one after this was family out to eat with gay parents. Okay, no, they were not kissing on each other. First of all, they did 2 females with a male child and a female child, and they had a waiter just go on and on and on, verbally abusing them. Now, they did point out, before they went on with this, that there are actually states that you can be kicked out of a restaurant legally just because you're gay or lesbian. And these states are Montana, Idaho, Utah, Arizona, Wyoming, Colorado, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania. Yeah. Wow. All of those states can legally kick out a gay or lesbian couple just for being gay or lesbian. Now, basically, all right. Just going, I mean, this waiter was extremely abusive to these couples. They weren't kissing, they weren't making out, they were out for a meal as a family, as any other family would be. 2 women, a boy child, and a girl child. And they also did this with the men as well, and 2 men, a male child and a female child. And basically it was strangely similar. This is where men and women, it did not change. Basically, people were listening in on the abuse, and they didn't do anything. They didn't say anything. They didn't come to their rescue. Yeah. I mean, of course, there were few that did. But again, also, when they realized that people were not coming to their rescue, they told the actors to do certain things, such as either the couple engage the other patrons, or also the waiter to engage other patrons. Like when he turned his back and went to serve the guy behind him, he said, "Oh, don't look over there; it'll make you sick." It's a bunch of fruits or something like that with their children. And even then, most people did not do anything to defend the gay couples. They actually ignored it. Yeah. Now, there was a couple people that did defend them. I think there was only one that they showed that actually defended them without being engaged, should I say. And she was actually an immigrant from the Ukraine that immigrated over here legally 10 years ago. And she was actually in tears on how they were being treated. Because this is supposed to be America, land of the free, home of the brave, and she wasn't seeing that it was free. So, yeah. They did 2 days, and then everybody else who defended them, if they did defend them, didn't defend them until they were actually engaged, either by the couple or by the child. Even when they told the child to cry and then leave their daddies alone, and even say to another patron, we're leaving because they were being mean to my daddy. Even then, most people did not pay attention because it was quote-unquote none of their business. This one Asian lady, they were questioned by the host afterwards, and they said, well, we just came to eat. It was none of our business. We just came to eat, and that was all. Wow. Really? After 2 days of shooting and about 100 customers, less than 12 people stood up for the gay couples. Wow. Wow. Really? Now, since I'm running really short, I'm going to tell you. The one that got the most reaction was something that was more annoying just to the customers and really wasn't hurting anyone, and that was the cell phone conversations. We all agree that cell phone conversations are annoying, but when push comes to shove, you're not really hurting anyone. No, you're not. So basically, unless it just basically annoys you personally, these people are not going to get involved. even if it may include hurting somebody else. Now that's just really sad. I find this highly disgusting. And I just don't know what to say. Is this really human nature? Is it? Okay, I'm sorry. I missed one. The number one thing that people were number one episode was Mean Girls. Basically, a bunch of girls making fun of a nerd in a park and just really being mean and telling her that she's a loser and ugly and disgusting and all that stuff. Most men just kept walking. Now, a lot of times after they were confronted by the host of the show, the hosts said, they told the host, well, I would have gotten involved if it become more physical. Now this was bullshit, because they actually redid it to where the mean girls were dressed in hoodies, dressed a little tougher, was a little bit more physical, and the men didn't do shit. Not at all. So with the threat of more physical violence, it didn't work. Now a lot of people that jumped in were women. Most people still did not stop because it was none of their business. But the people who jumped in most were other women. Unfortunately, a lot of these women that jumped in ended up getting more down on the mean girls, mimicking them, becoming a mean girl themselves. And I think I can understand why. And the reason why I think this happened is because I am willing to bet dollars to donuts that the women that jumped in to save this little girl who was being relentlessly teased and made fun of and made to feel like shit is because they themselves were probably victims of the same abuse when they were that girl's age. But see, this is where it comes in. This is really close to the cell phone incidents, where they were talking about the cell phones and talking in public. People do not get involved unless it has to do with themselves. They did not get involved with the cell phone. They only got involved with the people talking loud on the cell phone in a public restaurant simply because it was annoying to them. It wasn't hurting anyone. Talking on cell phones will never hurt anyone. It's just annoying. But still, a lot of people jumped in. And nobody jumped in to save the girl who was being relentlessly teased, except for the women who had actually been teased before. So although it did not officially affect them personally, they were thinking back to when they were victims. And I find that sad. Whether you were a victim of bullying or not, isn't it your responsibility to save that child from bullying or potentially being physically harmed? As an adult, whether that's your child or not, whether you have children of your own or not. When are people going to learn to do what they would want to, what they would expect someone to do? Just because it's not you or your group that's being persecuted at this point in time does not mean that it won't be you or your group that you belong to. If you're not around to sit there and defend those that are being wronged, you have no right to ask others to defend you. You really don't. How can you ask, or how can you expect others to be there for you and defend you if you're not willing to defend others in situations that are clearly wrong? You can't, and you shouldn't. And I just can't believe that the situation that got the most attention really didn't harm anyone. It was just annoying to them personally. I find that incredibly... wow. Really doesn't make me have a lot of faith in mankind. You know, one of these days I'd actually like to work on a show similar to Prime Time's What Would You Do? Blessed be.